Which is fine, because the West should stand with Israel, absolutely. Do you understand? That's something that should never be questioned. The support of the West for Israel should be absolute no matter what. That's what I believe. But I also believe that the region also has a role to play as a kind of oppositional force so that we can maybe reach an agreement on what's going on.
So, I mean, look, I don't have a problem with, I don't have a problem with the idea that having adversaries in the region is arguably a good thing so that a compromise can be made. But that's really different.
I wouldn't say adversaries. I would say an opposing thought about the situation.
Well, yeah, sure. That's what I mean. My point is that's not what we're talking about here.
So if we go back to the first question that you have on your live, which is Hamas simps are cringe.
Yep.
I don't know, because the term simp in the first place is kind of confusing to me, because a simp is someone that kind of puts himself under the person to like support them financially or something. Like
it's like a dumb Zoomer word, yeah. But it just means people. Like I'm just using it to mean people who like and support them.
Right. So
yeah.
I have to say that while I do not support their actions completely, even though I understand them and I do think they are justifiable, I can't say that I simp for Hamas, right? I would rather have them come together and figure out a peaceful solution, which has been figured out back in 1947, which was the UN's resolution of how to split the land, which has been put into, like I think it's been signed, but never enforced, basically. So you have a whole.
So I've heard conflicting things about that particular deal.
Exactly. Because also, can you really accept a deal that's been put in front of you with a knife to your throat, kind of? So it's a whole really complicated situation. What we know today, and what is going on today in 2023, is that there is an effort, and you see it happening in the Arab world, to recognize Israel and its legitimacy. You have countries, one after the other, recognizing Israel. So Israel should be starting at least to feel safe in its environment and with its neighbors.
I mean, that is, yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. And you know,
however,
arguably this newfound conflict.
This has been the deadliest year for Palestinians in Israel.
And I think the deadliest year for Israelis in Israel, for Jewish Israelis in Israel.
Well, if you discount what just happened a couple days ago, then that number changes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's my point. I think that there's like 700 dead now.
Yeah, but
in Israel.
I think it's reached. If you count both,
it may be higher. It was 700 this morning.
Yeah, it's over 1,000 now for sure.
But so it may not be the deadliest year in Israel. It's the deadliest year in recent history, though.
Right. No, but that's not what I mean. I mean by what's been happening throughout the year, and honestly, the de-escalation of political tensions with Israel and its neighbors. What we have seen coming from Israel was actually an escalation of the violence against Palestinians, where they tried to annex a whole new part of Cisjordania without having any legal right to, and they just do it with whole impunity. So I'm sorry,
which region? Sorry.
I don't remember exactly which region, because it's been happening a lot. I could look it up.
I mean, we can talk about the settlers. We can talk about like the settlers in East Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Like that's been going on for a while now. I mean, it's definitely not
faster.
new.
It's been accelerating. Do you know what I mean? It's been accelerating, and
yeah. So I haven't seen that it's accelerating, but I wouldn't be surprised if it were. That could very well be the case.
Well, like I said, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I've been following the news. And from a trusted news source today, I read that in Palestine, this was the deadliest year for Palestinians, discounting what happened 2 days ago with the war going on. Do you understand?
Sure. So yeah. And I could believe that.
With all the goodwill that's been shown towards Israel, with all these Arab countries recognizing it as a state, they still made this year the deadliest for Palestinians. Do you understand? So that's also where it hurts, kind of, because
I believe that.
there is a lot of goodwill put towards normalizing relations in the area with Israel and guaranteeing them their safety, and even giving up what was taken by Israel over the past 40, 50 years, because that's what...
I mean, are you talking about the Golan Heights? Because I think that there's actually combat happening in the Golan Heights as well, currently.
Today.
With,
yes,
like,
today.
I believe that was yesterday.
Yes.
But it's, I mean, but other than that, like, isn't the, you know, excluding settlements in the West Bank, excluding settlements in the West Bank and the current conflicts in... I mean, like, the three conflict regions, right, are Gaza, the West Bank, and the Golan Heights, yeah?
Yeah.
So there's current conflict in the Golan Heights. I don't think that Israel's going to give that up. There's current conflict in Gaza for obvious reasons. And there's not really any active conflict. I mean, like, there's like passive conflict, if you will, in the West Bank. But as far as I know, there's not like active shooting, war happening right now.
Shooting the ankles of protesters is kind of active shooting.
I mean, sure.
So
sorry, what I mean is it's not a hot war.
Oh, sorry, because without hospitals, you heal from a shot ankle, basically. You can just...
No, I said it's not a hot war.
Right. So it's a hot war when Israel decides it's a hot war, but it hasn't been
it's a hot war when you have two forces fighting each other.
Two forces of equal strength, or does it matter?
No, doesn't have to be equal strength. I mean, like the point is like, so what I'm getting at is that while yes, atrocities are happening in the West Bank, they're not new.
So that makes them okay. So pain over a long time is acceptable, but...
When did I say that?
Well, you said they're not new. So
you're right. They're not new, right?
So we're used to them. Is that what you're saying? Because if you're saying they're not new, then that means they don't matter.
I'm saying that they are not new, and so Saudi Arabia and Jordan, these are not status quo changers that are going to change the way that they interact with Israel.
They were changing.
I mean, you can argue that maybe they should, but why would? But if something is just currently ongoing, why would they change the way that they're interacting with Israel if they already knew about these things?
Because they want to normalize relations, and they're hoping.
Right. So that's exactly my point. So they don't really care.
That by providing Israel assurances of safety in the form of recognition, maybe even alliances, that they would be safe in the area. Because
honestly, that would be a good thing to happen.
Deep down, what Israel wants is to be safe with its neighbors.
Yep.
With enough land to provide for its population, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the borders as they stand are sufficient, I think.
When Saudi Arabia, when Morocco, when Tunisia, when all these countries start to recognize Israel as a state, one after the other, after so long not doing so, isn't that a show of faith in the fact that they accept Israel as their neighbor?
Because so that would be excellent, and you know we would be very, very close to peace in the Middle East, right? The trouble is that like Saudi Arabia isn't Palestine. Jordan isn't Palestine. Now they might have a lot of influence there, but so long as there's conflict between Palestinians and Israelis, it's...
They're a geopolitical power with a lot of money and influence in the area, which means that with their, I don't know, backing or whatever, we could arrive at a solution where there is enough...
yeah, that'd be great. That would be excellent.
This is what it boils down to. In the end, what does it boil down to? Investments in the area. Do you understand? In the end, what can solve this is a few economies coming together and deciding we're going to invest in the area, which they can't do while there's political instability. Do you understand? So
I don't. So investment in the area isn't going to solve the problem on its own. You need de-radicalization both in Israel and in Palestine.
De-radicalization comes with better prospect for your future, which means a better economic outlook, which means foreign investments, which means...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe you're right, and maybe that will happen. I am
telling you that nobody.
I don't know. Like, it's so bad.
When they have a full belly, when they have fun, when they have a place to sleep, when there is no danger to their life that's imminent, people do not want to fight. People would rather be.
Yeah, no, that's probably true. How do you propose that we get there? I mean, like normalizing relationships with Jordan and Lebanon and Syria and Saudi Arabia. I don't know. Will that get us there? I mean, if that means
not necessarily.
Because yeah, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. You said you were going to ask a good question. I want to listen.
Yeah, so like, okay, the way I see it is that if Israel normalizes relationships with Saudi Arabia and all these other countries, great. So Israel will open up trade with those countries will open up trade with Israel, they'll recognize each other. You know, they might not like each other, but at least they'll like recognize each other. How does that help the Palestinians though? Because the Palestinians are still blockaded. And unless like these other countries demand that Israel, you know, open the blockade, which of course Israel won't do unless something changes. So like, how does that help Palestinians at all?
It's not that complicated. They do not need to end the blockade straight away. There can be a waiting period where we start to get things better in Gaza, which means access to basic needs. That means they have to give up controlling the water. They have to give up controlling the electricity. They have to give up controlling the medicine and the goods in and out of Gaza and Cisjordania. Of course, they have oversight so that we make sure that no weapons go in there or anything that's kind of illegal. But if they allow first the basic necessities, we can start stabilizing the area, and then we can bring in investment to build better communities, rebuild all that was destroyed, give them libraries, give them schools, give them hospitals. Once they have those things, they will calm down. And you know they will, because why? They haven't actually had any major incursion in Israel since the Intifada of the 70 or 80, I don't remember the exact year, but they do minor stuff.
There was stuff in the early 2000s, like a lot of stuff, right?
So in 1997 is when Hamas was recognized as a terrorist organization because of the death of Yasser Arafat and what happened at that time. If you remember, it was a specific event. It doesn't.
No, I mean in the early 2000s there were like the level of you know, like just like bus bombs and things like that were much higher than they are today.
Also because of what happened with Iraq. So you can't pin that specifically on the Palestinians, okay? Because
sure.
After 9/11 and the war in Iraq, the whole region was just really destabilized for good.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But if you look at the last time Hamas coordinated something of this scale, it was more than 20 years ago. You see what I mean? So that means that they don't just go wild and attack.
Well, yeah. The issue, the reason for the blockades, though, and the reason for the concentration camp, effectively, is not because of large-scale incursions, but it's because occasionally one or two people get in and then somebody dies. That's the problem, right? So that's what Israel fears.
So you mean to say it's okay to give collective punishment to 2 million people?
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying that's why it's there. Right, like that is their justification. They're like, no, we can't let anybody through. If the moment we open borders, this just starts happening again, right?
It's their justification. Now
we're So how do we avoid? How do we get Israel to chill on that? And how do we make sure that when Israel chills on that, Palestinians or Hamas sympathizers don't continue to do that?
For the situation today, if Israel agrees to peace talks with Hamas, I say free all the hostages as a gesture of goodwill. Free every single hostage as a gesture of goodwill, just in the hope of talks, and bring them to the table. So with the regional powers that are now accepting Israel as an entity that just belongs there, maybe we can get things moving. Do you understand? So
I mean, like, I think like, so I don't know if that would work, but I think it's a good idea. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in today's Israel, unfortunately, because today's Israel is run by a far-right, you know, bloodthirsty nationalist government. And considering what happened, and considering what we all saw happened yesterday and the day before, Israelis are out for blood.
And they will get blood. But they will get blood.
Yeah.
I can tell you that if they walk into Gaza with the intent to wage war, they will be met with resistance, and it's going to be bloody.
I agree. It will be, yeah.
The way of the world today is very unfortunate, and people need their pound of flesh. Do you understand? And this is Hamas's way to say, hey, we exist, and we still want rights, basically. We want water, we want food, we want medicine. They're not saying crazy stuff. They're saying, please stop killing our kids, basically. Because if you see the statistics, when a Palestinian person dies, it's usually an underage person.
Okay, so while that is true, keep in mind that half of Palestine's population is younger than 18.
And that makes it okay, basically.
No, it doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it okay, but it does put in perspective this. It's not like Israelis are specifically targeting young people. It's just that half of the people are young people.
Because some of them seemed isolated to me. One of them, a 16-year-old girl, was just on a rooftop hanging her clothes. There was nothing around.
I haven't seen that one, but it very well could be really bad. Yeah.
Do you understand? I have a feeling that there is standing orders, but that's just a feeling. You shouldn't let go.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not familiar with that particular case, but I mean, suffice it to say, like, an unfortunate consequence of the very, very young demographic age of Gazans in particular is that when people die, whether as a result of Israel or as a result of lack of food, it's all as a result of Israel. Half the time it's going to be young people.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That's true. It's like in America when they say black people do crime on black people more. It's not that you know what I mean. Like it's
that black people live near black people most of the time,
and that they have the economic situation where they're anyway.
It's one of those like.
It's a statistical weirdness, let's say, because of just a bunch of people living together in certain conditions, basically.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Like the only thing that I like, and the only reason I started this live is because I've seen so many lives where you just have people like, before I get to that, actually, the only thing that I can push back on is to say that, they just want, food and water. And that's probably true about the Palestinian people as a whole. But like in Hamas's charter, it's pretty explicitly their goal is to eliminate Israel, right?
A charter made in what year?
87, I want to say.
87. Let's hope.
I think that's when they founded. Well, I don't think I don't think that they've changed it. Is my point.
So, if that's true, then obviously Hamas is a terror organization that should not exist. Point.
I mean,
made.
The point is that.
If you argue in your basic rules for negotiations that Israel should not exist, then how can you say that?
Then there's no conversation to have, right?
You know what I mean? It just stops any possibility for conversation. Like the conversation starts at Israel is an independent state, and you will have an independent state too. But if in your basic negotiations Israel doesn't deserve existence, then why should you kind of deserve to exist?
Yeah, I mean, no. So that's the trouble, and that's why look. So people think I'm just a cringe white liberal. I'm a leftist. I actually think that the Palestinians are being apartheided, and Israel is a far right ultranationalist country that needs to be like basically overthrown. But they don't need to have Hamas in charge to do that.
I don't think that Hamas needs to be in charge. I think that there should be free elections and there should be oversight over those elections. And I think that they should have a new type of government modeled after democracy so that the people can actually decide who their leaders are instead of having de facto leaders because they're the only ones who actually do anything. Do you understand?
I mean, like if the UN wanted to come in and do like a overseen election or something, that'd be cool as hell.
No, but that would be in my imagination and how negotiations should proceed. That would be mandatory. That would be mandatory to predetermine what type of government they would have as a democracy. What type of parliament do we model after France? Do we model after Germany? Do we model after?
I mean, it doesn't matter so long as it's democratic,
it has
right?
To be a mix because you have to understand that they have this thing called tribal families that are very important to the political side of things. So it would have to be. Anyway, there is a deal that can be made for a government that would represent the people properly, let's say. And that would have to be overseen. It would have to be overseen by the UN as a requirement, because unfortunately, in a state of devastation, you cannot trust the people in charge to do the right thing, and that's just how it is.
No, and you know,
So
I'm on board with that. How do we get the people in charge to be okay with that?
we promise them a better future, and we show them how that future could be achieved from a small effort.
Right. But so that's how you convince the people. How do you convince the people in charge?
You tell them they don't stand much to lose because their situation is shit in the first place, and they can get much better if they agree that there is something better and for the greater good. You
I'm
understand?
actually not sure if that's true. So from what I've heard,
yes,
from what I've heard, the leaders of Hamas are doing fine.
You think so? That's
what I've heard. I should probably fact check this, but I've heard that they're politicians just like everybody else.
Do they leave? Can they leave Gaza, or do they not leave Gaza?
They might not even live in Gaza.
They might not even live in Gaza. Well, that would be a problem because we can't organize.
So before I make the claim, before I make the claim that that's actually the case, I'm going to fact check myself because this is just something I've heard and it's not something I fact checked myself. So I'm on thenationalnews.com. This is just the first thing that popped up. So apparently, the political leaders have mostly been living in Qatar, Turkey, Lebanon, Iran, and Egypt.
I see.
Yeah, they live in exile, apparently.
And how do they orchestrate something of this magnitude from exile? Did they go back to Gaza, or do they have some people?
That's an excellent question that I don't know if anybody knows the answer to yet. Also, those are the political leaders, not necessarily the military leaders, right?
You can just know this. They would never be able to orchestrate anything inside of Gaza without having at least some trusted people in Gaza or being themselves in Gaza. It means that
So to be clear, those are the political leaders, not the military leaders.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, well, for the people of Gaza, it makes no difference. The military leaders are the political leaders because they have the guns. So they actually make the decision. It's not that guy in Qatar doing who knows what that decides the fate of the Palestinian and the Gazan people. It's the people on the ground fighting. So if you want to look for the people in charge, you look for the people fighting for their lives and for the lives of their loved ones. You talk to those people, you convince those people, all the people abroad that are giving orders by the will of who knows what, they lose all their power. So you need.
I don't know, and you might be right, but it just seems like generally the people in charge of these kinds of things are not nearly as bad as poorly off as like the people that they're actually sending to fight. You know.
Same thing can be said from both sides, but
exactly, I agree. Yeah, that's exactly my point.
But the disparity of the people living in Gaza, actually fighting, holding the guns, giving the orders. Do you understand? On the ground in Gaza and the surrounding.
Yeah, maybe the field commanders, sure.
There are the field commanders who say what? Who say, "Let's go kill and die over there." Those
right,
are the
but the question is who organized this, and I don't know if we know that yet. We might find out in the weeks to come. But suffice it to say, like, if any sort of attempt is going to be made to, bring democracy to the region, if you will, like have a UN sort of something or other to ensure there's a free election, you have to reconcile with the fact that there are going to be people in charge who don't want to change the status quo, who don't want to change things.
We just need enough that do, and not only. And we need the people to actually put pressure on their leaders. Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I agree. By the way, that has to be the case in Israel as well.
Yeah, I know. Even though they did elect the most far-right government ever just recently, but I do understand that now there is a push for change because they can see that, like, maybe we took it too far, stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Unfortunately, the attack on Saturday I guess we'll see how much support. But typically, right-wing governments gain support in wartime.
And that might not be the case anymore because...
It might not be the case because they floundered really bad.
If it can be shown that the right-wing government is actually the reason behind what is going on today through their policies, basically, maybe we can see a shift. Never never to forget that in Israel there is a big political proponent, which is the Orthodox Jews, who are a huge part of the political makeup of Israel, and they have a lot of weight. And Orthodox Jews in Israel are not settlers. Do you understand? They're not here to settle. They're literally here because they think it's the end of the world and they should be in Israel.
Oh, that's what you mean.
You know what I mean? So if they start to see, if they realize that what's going on is not okay and it's not about just Israel, but Israel with its neighbors, etc., you might see some political change. Do you understand? Because they hold the most.
I would hope so.
So since that's the element inside of Israel that's not actually greedy for land and just wants to do what's right by their profession of faith, they might actually lead a change.
So maybe they also tend to be the people who are most right wing.
We're talking ideals now, because
so idealistically, I just don't know what's going to happen in the next week, and if it gets worse than it already is, I don't know if good change is coming anytime soon.
Israel has way too much firepower for Hamas to withhold them more than a short time.
I'm not saying if it gets worse for Israel. Depending on how Israel reacts, depending on what kinds of things they do, it will be...
Invading Gaza is just going to be bloody for Israel, basically, because they wouldn't know what they're getting into. So a ground invasion of Gaza is just the worst idea ever. Beating them back to behind the wall, let's say, is the least bloody option, but then we need to start talking, because otherwise this is going to happen again very soon. Do you understand?
Yeah, that would be that. Yeah, maybe I'm just more pessimistic than you are.
So what do you think would happen? Do you think Gaza...
I think that Israel's going to do a land invasion, probably with a huge number of airstrikes first, and a lot of Palestinians are going to end up unalive.
Okay, but do you understand that if you do a huge amount of airstrikes first, you kind of stop yourself from being able to ground invade, because suddenly the roads are filled with rubble and your tanks can't go anywhere?
Airstrikes are particularly good at softening targets, if you will. I don't know. I suspect that it's going to get a lot bloodier before it gets worse.
Or it gets better.
Before it gets better, yes. Yeah.
Well, the chips are going to fall where they may. All I can say is that a ground invasion of Gaza is going to lead to way more Israeli deaths than can be forecasted, because you put 2 million people in a small area for 50 years, they can't leave, they can't come back. They tend to know the land by heart. And we know that in warfare, knowing the land is like 50% of the fight. So they can soften the area with their planes. It's just not a good idea, basically. Look at Ukraine and Russia. Russia thought they had it's going to be just a similar situation. It's not that hard to make weapons out of household products. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm just I've been thinking about this for the last few days, just because I've been following the news pretty closely, and I'm look,
the news is all about that right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just thinking, look, if this didn't happen, and Saudi Arabia normalized, and other countries normalized, we could have actually been on the road to something good.
Not while Israel was escalating, taking over land from Cisjordania, basically. I think maybe...
do you think that this is going to make it better or worse?
But this war?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it might make things better.
Really?
Yes, because the resentment that is felt, that is being felt by the people of Gaza and Cisjordania, and at large also kind of the Muslim world, has been somewhat vindicated. So those feelings of resentment are really important to evacuate. And if we manage to actually do that, then maybe we can have actually lasting peace after this. Without this war, We might have come to an agreement, but maybe not a lasting peace. Maybe we could have reached a fragile status quo, but lasting peace, maybe not. Because now they are taken seriously. Before, they were seen like animals to be contained, and that is a word that was used. We need to contain them, knowing that half the population, like you said, is kids. So it's like an ulcer. You have to lance it. So you can heal.
No, because this is just going to make Israelis hate Palestinians more. And then when Israelis come in and bomb the shit out of Palestine, it's going to make Palestinians hate Israelis more.
But since Palestinians were able to get that, I'm sorry to say the term, but like pound of flesh, the retaliation will be like better endured, I think. Because they, in their minds, in their selves, they were like, we actually were able to fight back, so we're gonna take whatever's coming our way, because we are one nation, we are one people united with the purpose of peace for ourselves. You know what I mean? Because through hardship comes good things, and nobody has lived hardships like the Palestinian people. So if they're not strong, I don't know what they are. And I think they can endure what's coming their way and come out of it stronger and maybe swing for peace, hopefully.
Look, man, I hope that you're right.
I hope I'm not too idealistic, and I hope I'm not having just too much faith in people doing the right thing. But in any case, I'm really more worried about the Russia-Ukraine situation with the submarines being put out to sea from Russia with like nukes and stuff. Like that's way more concerning to me.
That's also concerning.
Especially that the US now has brought an armada in the fucking Near East, which is like a stone's throw away from the
yeah, that too. That too. And then there's also the current. Actually, I think the thing in Armenia ended recently, or I suppose it's technically in Azerbaijan, but
it should be like, yeah, they reached an agreement or something's happened.
Yeah.
Thankfully, China is backing off from the project of invading Taiwan or whatever they were doing.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know. It seems like everything's getting really bad.
But everything's getting really bad, but some things take care of themselves. Like the Chinese economy can't allow them to go to war. So that's a non-starter, thankfully. The recent collusion between North Korea and Russia is actually good news, because that means that Russia has literally no allies left, and they have to,
Yep.
actually, you know what I mean? They have to resort to North Korea. So there is some good news. And honestly, do you really think Russia has that many nukes? After
You know, I've had this conversation with a lot of people. I actually think that they probably don't have very many working nukes now.
Exactly, because a nuke is gonna last like 60, 70 years if it's maintained properly, but with the corruption in the system, the lack of whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think maybe like 10%, if that, of their nukes work. So to me, the fact that they're...
It's still a lot, but hopefully...
Find them in your arsenal. Find them in your arsenal. It's gonna take a decade to figure out which nukes
That's
are
true.
working.
Or they just launch all of them. But...
Okay, and what if some blow up in their faces?
That's a good point.
It's not a viable option, especially that they're showboating. You see what...
Oh.
It's about being under possible nuclear threat, and that a nuke might fall on Russia, and they're doing all these drills, how to deal with...
This is the...
you have some...
I've seen a... Yeah, I've seen a lot of lives with people just having terrible takes, so I had to join.
Yeah, and thank you. I love your lives, and your questions are always interesting. So I can.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. It was more productive than I thought it would be. So thanks for being here, man.
I'm glad to be here anytime I can.
All right, take care. All right, who's up next? Georgia May 69. All right, Georgia May is not connecting. Talk to Yossi, Yosef. I didn't see the rest of your name.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I've been better.
I like your screen. Never seen anything like this on TikTok. It's amazing.
Well, I didn't make it. A friend of mine did. He's quite good at these sorts of things, and I asked him to put this very spicy background on today. So here we are.
It's amazing. So listen, I belong to an organization called Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, and we are working hard to create a federal government that would be mutual to the Palestinians and the Israelis. It would be based on democracy, based on election, based on a constitution, and I think that that's really the only solution for that area, is to have a federal common government for both people.
I agree. That would be very good.
Yeah. So we are actually holding simulations on that. You can join our simulation. You can send me an email to josephavassar@gmail.com. Joseph spelled Josef.
Okay. And then what's the rest of it?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, no, I'm writing it down, so please continue.
Okay. Josef Avessar
Okay.
@gmail.com.
And you say that you guys run simulations on how these policies could work out?
Exactly. How the elections will take place, what is the Constitution, how it would function. We have a website. We had many simulations. Our website is ipconfederation.org. You can sign up for the simulation.
I'll check it out. No, that seems pretty cool.
Yeah, and we think that that's the only way to have peace. Peace is the only solution for that area. The Israeli government and the Palestinian governments are total failures. They haven't been able to give peace, and they don't have a vision for peace. And this thing that is going on forever is unacceptable.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that, honestly.
Yeah, good. So I hope you are you really a doctor, or is this just your?
No, I have a PhD in physics.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I'm a lawyer. I am of Israeli background. But I am a lawyer here in Los Angeles. I've been a lawyer for 43 years. I studied law in Los Angeles. I studied constitutional law, and
my wife just took the California bar in July.
Oh, yeah.
So
she's waiting for results.
Yeah, she'll get them in a month.
Yeah, that's a nervous time.
Yup, you could tell me about it.
Yeah. When I took it, the issue was, are you getting a big envelope or a small envelope?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's probably online now, right?
You want to get a small envelope in the mail.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I'll let her know.
Yeah, because if the big envelope, it tells you how to register again. The small envelope.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. So, where are you located?
Currently, I live in the Czech Republic. So she actually had to fly back to California to take the exam.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
I'm here for work, but it's a story.
I see. So, I think that this common government could be created independently of the Israeli, independently of the Palestinian government.
Really?
Yeah. It's not
That's intriguing.
It would be the elections will take place online. We will have 14 million people being given an opportunity to vote. It's independent of Hamas, independent of the Israeli government, a common government for the people of Israel and Palestine that will have the political power and the political pressure to demand peace and to give peace and prosperity to the Palestinians and the Israeli people.
Yeah, no, I'm going to look into this. This is really a really cool organization. Thanks for sharing it with me.
Yeah. All right. So hope to see you there. Our next simulation is on Sunday coming up, and I hope to see you then.
Sounds good. Have a good one, Yossi.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. No, that seems really, really cool. I actually like that a lot. Oh. Okay, so Mahmoud, unfortunately you'll have to come up next because I misclicked. Sorry.
So,
Woman,
I
how's
was
it going?
wondering if you lived in a neighborhood and, like, let's say you were the landowner of the whole neighborhood, would you be okay if somebody just came into your neighborhood and just claimed some land and said they deserve to live there?
I mean, if that land was occupied, no, I wouldn't. I mean, unless they bought it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, if they didn't buy it, then no, I wouldn't.
So that's kind of the history, is that it was basically like a Muslim area with Palestinians in the 1900s, and the Zionist movement said, well, we're just going to come in and just take over some land.
So, I mean, if you look at the 1947, like the privately held land in 1947, prior to the war, there was, I was looking at a map the other day. There was to say that it was all Palestinian held land is a little bit of a misrepresentation. As far as privately held land goes, it was, a small spattering of privately held Palestinian land, a small spattering of privately held Jewish land, and then the vast majority of that land at all was British mandate. It was just public land. Public land, as in it was owned by the British Crown and not owned by any private citizens. So, I mean, unfortunately, it's like a piece of information that's kind of just.
So what you're saying is that you're okay with colonialism and like a country like England just going in and like owning pieces of like India or something and telling.
No. But I mean, if you were saying that in the 1900s that it was all Palestinian land, I mean, like, just as far as who controlled the land, it wasn't. It was British. Who controlled it before that was the Ottomans, right? Who controlled it before that was some Christians during the Crusades. Before that was the Byzantines. Well, we could keep going back if you wanted to.
So let's just agree. We agree that the Ottoman Empire pretty much owned the land, and they lost it in World War I to England and France, and then in England. So basically, in the early 1900s, let's just give a date of like 1903 to 1910 or whatever. Basically Palestinians and some of the Jewish people that were living in the area, everyone got along at that time.
I don't actually think that's true.
Pretty much.
Not a whole lot of people lived there, like, period. Right. But it wasn't I mean, obviously there were people that did get along, but there was also conflict.
Yeah, but pretty much everyone got along. Not compared to today, it was way better.
Yes, compared to today, but that's because you have a much higher population density now, and you also have a large segment of what is it when they move? There's a word for it, displaced peoples, which obviously incites anger.
In World War II, when England decided, you kind of have to question whether England really has a say. What happens?
I mean, England didn't have a say because they were colonizers. But as far as who should have had a say? The Ottomans?
No. Israel was formed because England had a say and said, "This is Israel."
Yes, I'm aware.
So the whole formation of Israel was basically made because of a colonial power imposing its will on a Muslim area.
So what should England or should the British Empire just have kept control of that region?
No, well, you have to ask whether or not England should have just left the people to decide for themselves. That's a real ethical question.
I mean, arguably, yeah, probably. But at that point, there was going to be a conflict regardless, because there were, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Jews fleeing to that area. And, you know, there were people there or there were already people there. So I mean, like, regardless, you were going to have conflict. I don't know why.
Right there, when you kind of like interject conflict, right? Because that's the whole problem, is that there's conflict, right? Like, you know, basically that is the whole problem. Like, if you go to like New York City, you know, there's Italians, there's Irish neighborhoods, whatever, and there's not like bombs being thrown. So the whole point of the whole discussion.
I mean, weren't there? I'm fairly, and I could pull this up, and I'm fairly certain that there were massacres going back and forth between the two communities.
No, I'm saying
prior to 1948.
Right, okay, just let me please finish one.
Sure, go ahead.
Like idea. So we have to agree that the big problem right now is that there are, you know, bombs, that there's a certain level of fighting, that there is like people aren't living peacefully. And what I am arguing, and what I am saying is that the problem started because Israel was formed by a colonial power, and it pushed Palestinians into an area, and that pissed off the locals who lived there and were like, why do we only get to live in this area? And it upset them. And then this is my second point. The reason that things are so heated today, the reason, and I'm saying the reason, is that basically Palestinian people from 1940, more land was taken by Israel. 1960 war, more land was taken by Israel.
Well, that was taken from Jordan and Syria and Egypt, right?
So let me just finish. I'm done.
Hold on. You're conflating what happened here. You're suggesting that more land was taken from Palestinians. It wasn't. It was taken from Jordanians, Lebanese, and Egypt, right?
So the area that Palestine is called Palestine got smaller and smaller since 1910, right?
Since 1910? Yeah, sure. I mean, it was all called Mandatory Palestine in 1910.
So that's the problem, is more and more land was taken from Palestinian people in different wars in 1940 and 1960. More, and like that is the problem. That is what the Palestinian people are upset about.
Hold on. So I just gotta, like, let's just be super, super clear here. So the 1967 borders are basically where they are today.
You can look at the
pre-1967 borders.
You can see the maps.
Like you have, I'm looking at the map right now. No. So you have the
No,
I mean,
but I said since 1910.
Yeah. Okay. So in 1910 up until 1947, you had all of it was Palestine, right? It was just all Palestine.
No, in 1910
okay.
there was.
I'm sorry. After 1919, I suppose it was all Palestine, right?
Right.
So in 1910, it wasn't even its own thing. It was just part of the Ottoman Empire. Then after 1919, it was all Palestine until 1947.
No, see, that's what you just skipped over. It was its own thing. It was called Palestine. That's an important thing.
No, it was just a part of the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah, but it's also it's a region recognized as Palestine. That's an important thing.
Yeah, but it's not like it was its own state.
Yeah, they were just like Zionists were having thoughts on whether or not they deserved a homeland, Palestinian people were also having thoughts that they had their own state.
Sure, that very well may be the case.
So there was a conflict right away, and like right around 1940. So okay, so the English people go, well, we're so smart.
When you say right around 1940, be super clear. Are you talking about in 1948, or are you talking about prior to that?
Yeah, the war in the 40s, right? The English said, we're so smart, so we're going to decide for you this piece of land is Israeli, and this piece of land is Palestine.
Yep, and those were the borders that were put forward for a two-state solution, correct?
They're not the same borders anymore.
They basically are. I mean, Israel is doing incursions into the West Bank, which is completely illegal and unjustified. But yes, they basically are. Do you want to look at the borders? I have them pulled up right now.
So
these are the pre-1967 borders.
So you're saying since 1948 that Israel didn't take land from Egypt?
No. So it took the Negev from Egypt, which
go.
It gave back.
Not all of it.
Wait, yeah, it did. Yeah, it gave back all of that land.
Okay, so what do you call moving in the Golan Heights? What do you call Israel?
Yeah, so that is the one piece of land that hasn't been given back, and you're right on that. The Golan Heights were taken from Lebanon and haven't been given back. But do you think that it was Palestinians who lived in the Golan Heights, or was it Lebanese?
But are they breaking the rule, like that there was land given to the Palestinians and now they're moving into the Golan Heights? Do you think that that's like what?
I think so. I'd have to go double check, but I think was the Golan Heights given to Palestinians? Yes, it was. That was part of the UN partition plan.
Right.
Yeah. So the Golan Heights were taken in. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Golan Heights were taken in 1949, I guess, and they haven't been given back since. That is true.
Right. That's a big deal.
Sure, I agree.
So one of the problems is Israelis are always going, well, the Palestinians have to come up with a solution. Well, basically, the Palestinians are the ones that are oppressed. They basically don't have a good economy. They're cut off with electricity. They're cut off with water. They're cut off with goods. So literally, so it's like this in a way, right? I'm not saying it's exactly, but let's say the colonial states, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and they're like, they're oppressing the local Indians in America in the 1700s. The oppressor is the one that's supposed to come up with a solution, not the oppressed.
Yeah. And you're right. Israel has a responsibility here because they have the power. They have the responsibility to basically trust the Palestinians. That doesn't give Hamas the green light to go do war crimes, though.
Yeah, okay.
I don't care how oppressed Palestinians are. You don't get the right to go kill civilians willy-nilly. Sorry.
So there are war crimes that the United Nations or whatever council voted on that Israel committed, but we're not going to get into.
Yes, I'm aware. I'm not justifying those. Right. I'm not even suggesting that Israel shouldn't be punished. But that doesn't mean that Palestine, or that Hamas rather, is allowed to do them.
So then I guess with the same breath, you're willing to admit that I think it was the war in 2014 that when Israel dropped thousands of bombs on civilians and women and children.
I'm not pro-Israel, my guy.
Right. So the thing is that I think Israel unalived over 1,500 people, and 2/3 of them were civilians and children. And you're equivocating that with the fact that the Palestinians have taken 50 people?
I'm sorry, I'm not equivocating anything. I haven't brought up anything from the past. I'm talking about what happened 2 days ago.
So why are you saying that? Why? What would you do if? Let me just ask you this. So if you were, let's just say you're Irish and you were in a city and you were given an area of 10 blocks by 10 blocks, and you lived next to an area of, let's just say, like Italians that had 10 blocks by 10 blocks, and then the Italians kept taking your blocks and taking your blocks and taking your blocks. And then if you ever had some sort of conflict or whatever, you just send in missiles and disproportionately unalive people. Why wouldn't Hamas be formed? I mean, Hamas is formed because the Palestinians are sick of losing and being treated just mass murdered by these bombs and by $1 million planes in the air. Why wouldn't Hamas be formed?
So, I'm not saying that that we shouldn't have expected this. I'm saying it's not justified.
But how is it cringe? If I was Italians unalive,
because it's cringe to kill civilians, my guy.
Yeah, well, it's called.
Arguably, it's not cringe. It's evil.
Yeah, guess what? It's war now. It's war. And
yes, and war means targeting military targets. That's what war is.
Israeli doesn't do that.
Yeah, and they should be held responsible for that too.
So why don't you have up here that Israeli military is cringe?
Because 2 days ago, we saw an EDM concert get mowed down and 260 civilians died, and it wasn't Israel that did that.
And guess what's going to happen in the next month? Israel's going to drop over 3,000 bombs.
Yeah, and it's going to be bloody as hell, and it'll be very, very sad that Hamas basically started a war that's going to kill way more Palestinians than they want.
Well, they didn't start it, but at any rate,
they literally did. They literally invaded Israel. So yes, they started a war.
They're always at war. This war has not ended in the last 20 years. So are you going to have the same lie that says the Israeli military is cringe as it kills civilians in the next 30 days?
Look, if we see footage or we get reports of
you have to
Israeli
see
soldiers
footage.
just going into going into a school and gunning down like half a dozen kids, sure.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you, what's the difference? A bomb falling on a mom and a child in Palestine and killing, unaliving her, or a Hamas person unaliving a mother right in front of a camera? What's worse?
Wait, is that a serious question?
Yeah, they're both the same. But why don't you talk about?
No, hold on. No, I mean, so just objectively, they're not the same because the latter isn't collateral damage, right? The latter isn't bad intel or there was a military target here and these civilians happen to be there. The latter is just, hey, we're just going to shoot a mother in the back of the head on camera. Like you have to understand. Hold on, no. This is just a really dumb take. Like there is a difference between airstrikes that result in civilian deaths and like executing civilians. Like there is a difference. Come on, do better.
No, there's not.
Do you really think that that's the case?
It's the same outcome.
Wait, so do you think that? Let me ask you this: what's worse? ISIS just beheading people on live TV, or not on live TV, I guess, on wherever, and then like NATO doing like I don't know, dropping bombs on fucking like somewhere in Southeast Europe.
Yeah, where they know that the numbers
just like what is more atrocious here? Come on.
When you know the truth, like right, you're not even like understanding. They know the numbers will be 2/3 of the people will be civilians. They know that. They're gonna
Israel's like murder of them. What?
It's not. It's war, right? It's not murder.
Wait a minute. So now you're all of a sudden okay with it?
Yeah, I'm totally okay with Hamas going and doing whatever means necessary.
And now you're okay with Israel doing the same. What?
No, Israel's already been doing that.
Okay, no. You understand that prior to Saturday, there were not bombs being dropped or dropped every day in Gaza, right?
Less than 10 years ago, over 1,000 people were unalived by Israeli
Yes, I understand that.
Right. So guess what?
But you understand that things are going to get much, much worse now, right?
Right.
Okay. So to suggest that this is
I don't know. The worse for the Israelis. It's already really bad.
No, it's going to get worse for the Palestinians. What are you talking about?
It's already worse. They don't have anything to live for. They have no money.
They have. Wait, so you're just suggesting that they don't have anything to live for, so they may as well just die?
They have a shitty life, which you don't even know about.
Do you know about it?
Yeah, I do, and they tell me that they have a bad life.
Hold on. Have you been to Palestine?
Yeah, I have, and they've told me that, and I've seen that people don't have a life, they don't have a hope, they don't have anything to look forward to.
So it's just fine if they get unalived. Is that what you're saying?
It's miserable, and they lose more and more land every 20 years, and more and more.
No. I think that this is like an absurd take, because like yes, their situation is really bad, so it's just okay to unalive them. Is that what you're saying? Like what?
When you have nothing to live for, war sounds pretty good.
I don't think. Do you think that like Palestinians want war right now?
Yeah, I do.
Then that's a shame.
And I think, at the end of the day, that's what Israel has done by trying to commit genocide against them, and they've given up.
So you think that Palestinians are just okay with getting like flattened? Like you think that that's what they want?
Well, I think at this point, they're just ready to go to war. They're not thinking about the consequences. They're already getting bombed all the time anyway. I mean, what does it matter?
That is that's the stupidest take I've ever. Like, what do you mean? What does it matter?
To them, it doesn't matter. They don't have.
Okay, I don't believe you for a second. I don't believe you for a second that you've ever talked to any Palestinians who are like, yeah, we were already getting bombed, so if it gets worse, what does it matter? I don't believe you for a second.
Oh, so you think they have a great life over there in Palestine or something?
Nice straw man. No, but nobody. Why would anyone want it to get worse?
The Palestinians live in the most horrible conditions in the world, and everyone.
And yes, and it will be worse tomorrow.
Thanks to the Jewish people. Yeah.
The Jewish people?
Israel, yeah.
I think you just outed yourself, my guy.
No, the Jewish people in Israel. That's what I meant. I know.
Sure, that's definitely what you meant.
A lot of Jewish people that I know in LA think that Israel is literally disgusting at this point.
And why'd you say the Jewish people, my guy?
Many Jewish people in LA think that Israel is out of control.
So then why did you blame the Jewish people for this?
I meant just the Jewish people in the realm of the Jewish Muslim, the whole conflict over there.
I'm sure you did.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's just some sort of like silly
Freudian
little
slip, I guess?
Oh, you got me, man. You got me.
I mean, you'd never hear me saying that Palestinians are terrorists. I would only say that Hamas committed acts of terror. But for you, it seems like you're fine to say that it's the Jewish people who are doing this and not like the IDF or the Israeli government or even Israel.
The Jewish people in Israel at this point are evil.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, I really do.
Like just all the Jewish people in Israel are evil?
Most of them, yeah.
Why?
Because they think they're so entitled to a homeland that they're willing to commit genocide.
How do you know this?
Because they are committing genocide.
Wait, so like all of the Jewish people that are living in Israel are doing this?
Many people condone the government, so yeah, they're part of it.
So why is it that Bibi Netanyahu like lost his several last elections?
Because Israel is corrupt now with this genocide movement.
Do you even know what you're talking about?
Yeah, you're just like following all the CNN things. I get it.
I don't watch CNN.
Yeah,
I think you just hate Jews.
You're just I literally love hanging out and playing poker with a lot of my Jewish friends. And
all of my Jewish friends, I love hanging out with them. I bet you do the same thing with all of your Palestinian friends that you definitely have.
But you think Israel, like you really, what has Israel done like once besides take care of Israel?
What? Do we have an expectation to do more? That a country does more than that?
We do have a moral obligation to do more.
What, like, countries have a moral obligation to do more than take care of their own?
You literally took over the land. So in your apartheid,
who's you?
The Jewish people in Israel took over the land. Who's you?
Why'd you say you literally took over the land? What?
The Jewish people took over the land in Israel. They have a moral obligation to the territories inside the country to treat them well.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, look at the history in the last 50 years and you tell me.
I'm not pro-Israel, my guy.
Yeah, well, that's.
But you definitely just slipped into some like really he left. Yeah, so at first I thought he was just being like your average pro-Palestinian guy, which fair. And then it became anti-Semitism. That was kind of rough. All right, let's talk to Mahmoud. I promised you that you'd come on. And then it became...
How's it going, man? How you doing?
Well, that last conversation was wild. But anyway, I'm doing okay.
I don't know. I can't. Everyone's entitled to speak for themselves, and he definitely doesn't represent all of the Palestinians.
I'm aware. I'm very aware.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask something. You said before that Hamas invaded Israel. We have to really understand what Israel is. Like, what does Israel encompass?
I mean, like, there's just like national borders. That's all. That's all.
What are their borders? What are their borders?
I mean, so arguably the borders are currently everywhere except the West Bank and Gaza, and the part of the Negev that they gave back.
I don't know about that, to be honest.
Well, I mean, those are like the officially recognized borders, right? Like those are just the regions that they have control over.
This is the thing. Israel doesn't have defined borders, so no one can really answer that question. Because Netanyahu, when he goes to the UN General Assembly, what pictures does he show in the UN General Assembly? He shows the map of Israel, including Gaza and the West Bank. Not only
that's propaganda for you, I guess.
Yeah, not only that, they actually occupy the West Bank militarily, and they enter and they are present in every part of the West Bank. They're in area A, B, and C. Yep. So there's nothing left for the Palestinians, and like no one can. If you control a land, and if you occupy a land, what's your reason for not annexing that land? Why hasn't Israel officially annexed that land?
Why haven't they?
Yeah, why haven't they annexed it?
I know. I don't know why they haven't.
know.
I mean, in principle, like with their current government, I'd be surprised if they didn't. I mean, they kind of are with the settlements, right?
They're
kind of doing it slowly.
No, they can never annex it. Because
why do you say that?
The demographic
like they shouldn't.
upset. It's because of the demographic upset. They want to.
Oh, that's
they want
yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's the only reason why they can't annex it. So they illegally occupy and militarily occupy this group of people
I agree.
without annexing it. And then they expect the Palestinians like you said before, you could see this attack coming and you can recognize why it happened. Doesn't mean you are happy with it happening or you don't support it, but you can understand why it happened because these people have been imprisoned. Gaza's been imprisoned for a long time. And the defense minister of Israel during this current war, he compared the Gazans, every Gazan, to animals. He said they're human animals.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, buddy.
This is the defense minister. You understand?
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
Not only that, he banned the entry of food, fuel, everything.
All
supplies into Gaza.
So you're talking about in the last 2 days, yeah?
I'm talking. I don't talk about the past. I don't talk about in history because I don't think it's going to.
So after this most recent conflict started, yes, the blockade has been made significantly worse. I agree.
Yeah, but it was always bad. 90% of water in Gaza wasn't drinkable, man.
It's really bad. This is why you're saying things that I think are true.
Yeah, this is why the morale of the fighters doesn't mean I agree with it, but this is why their morale was such high and they caused such devastation to the Israeli military. If you go and watch some of the videos on Twitter, their morale was much higher than the Israeli army. I mean, you can see videos on Twitter of the Israeli soldiers being caught with their pants off. They literally didn't even have time to put their pants on. Like they grabbed a gun and a vest. You understand?
Yeah,
I watched videos.
It was a holiday, so
I mean, is that really an excuse? I've seen videos.
No, that's just like a, that is why, it arguably.
Oh, you good, brother?
Well, maybe actually, we actually don't know why they weren't ready, but that's a possibility.
Yeah, give me a second.
Sure. Who was guest talking to? Somebody else, presumably? The white liberal who says killing bad doesn't realize uprisings against Nazis kill people.
Sorry, man. Look, I know your stance. You're trying to be neutral. But if you're trying to be neutral,
I'm condemning Hamas for this attack. I'm condemning Hamas for this attack. If they hadn't done this attack,
would you say you're
I would have been condemning Israel for their oppression.
Yeah. Would you say you're pro-Palestinian? Or pro-Israeli?
I would say I'm pro-Palestinian. I'm not Hamas. I would say I'm pro-Israeli. I'm not pro-Israeli government.
Hamas barely... Okay, when you talk about a governing body, like if you even want to talk about Hamas doesn't even have like the majority of administrative control over Gaza. Who really has control over Gaza is Israel. You understand? So,
I mean, what do you mean by that? Because as far as I know, there are no, at least up until 2 days ago, there were no Israelis in Gaza.
Who controls the electricity of Gaza? It's Israel.
Okay, that's what you mean. Yeah. Sure. But like, as far as actual policy that's happening in there, sure. No, I'm with you then.
Because what is like self-determination? What is like, what was the point of the Oslo Accords, right? What was the point of it? It was to give Palestinians some sort of autonomy. There's nowhere where Palestine, except some areas of Area A, where they have some sort of autonomy. Otherwise, they don't have autonomy. Even in Gaza, they don't have autonomy.
Again, so I completely agree with you. Like, I'm not in favor of apartheid.
I just bring this up because Hamas doesn't have the control that people are saying they have.
I mean, they have internal control, right? They don't have control over electricity and things like that. But
yeah, military-wise, sure, they have control of the military, or the militias, if you want to call them. I was watching videos. You know what their military were wearing? Their military doesn't wear boots. They wear Jesus sandals.
Yep.
That's what their military is wearing. You understand? These are militias. A lot of them that crossed the border.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the military.
Cross the border
they
with
were militants, right?
They were militants, right? A lot of them. But a lot of them didn't cross with guns. Sure, in their heads, you know, they're militias and they hate Israel and they want to commit acts of war. But they entered Israel, a lot of them, without guns. They only came back with guns.
Okay.
You understand? They came back with guns and
hostages. I don't see why you're telling me this. I mean, yes, that's the case.
I'm telling you this to show you that Gaza isn't the enemy that the West is trying to portray right now.
I'm not saying Gaza's the enemy.
With power.
I'm not saying Gaza's the enemy. I'm saying Hamas is.
Hamas, but who's paying the price? It's Gaza as a collective.
Yeah, which is why Hamas doesn't care about Palestinians, because they know what's going to happen as a result of this incursion. They knew what was going to happen. If they didn't, then they're stupid.
Do you not think it's better than the status quo, though? Do you think it's not status? I'll tell you.
Really? Wait a minute. What did you think? So, the status quo is bad. Do you think it's going to be better now?
So much. A lot of you know what the suicide rate in Gaza is. This is very sad, man. I gotta switch the tone when I talk about this, because it is true that a lot of Gazans would rather die than live in Gaza with the status quo. That is
okay. But you didn't answer my question.
What was your question?
Do you think it's going to be better now?
Definitely not. Definitely not. Not
so
now.
So then how was this action by Hamas worthwhile?
Maybe in the future. Maybe if we get some, you know who didn't condemn Hamas? Russia didn't condemn Hamas. China didn't condemn Hamas. You know, at least someone.
Yeah, which is like a bad sign.
At least but at least we have someone sticking up for the Palestinians, and the Western world can no longer blindly.
Do we really want? Do you really want Russia to be the guys that's?
Okay. Do you think America wears a blindfold to the oppression of the Palestinians? They veto every resolution.
So I think most politicians do. I think that most of the young people are actually pretty on board with Palestinian liberation, though.
Yeah, but America specifically vetoes every resolution from the United Nations, every single one. Australia, they're quick to condemn Hamas. They condemn Israel. They condemn Israel with the settlements. They condemn Israel with many things, the annexation of East Jerusalem.
Yep.
But they've taken zero action. The West, they condemn Israel in occasions, but they take no action against Israel. At least Russia and China now, after this conflict, are picking a side. Before they didn't pick a side. Now they pick a side.
Yeah. I guess what the point is like. I don't okay. I guess when you don't have any allies are good allies, right? But it would be like North Korea being like, yeah, we're on your side, right? Like, do you really want that?
Okay, which one's the North Korea? Is it Russia or China or is it the United States?
Oh, which one? No. I mean, North Korea is worse than all of them, obviously. But the point is like Russia right now are like the global boogeyman. So it doesn't seem like that would help their cause.
Israel's also the boogeyman, by the way. A lot of people hate Israel.
Yeah. That's true.
So,
less of a global boogeyman than Russia, though, I think. At least right now.
I mean, it's all subjective, I guess. But look, man, in the end of the day, you got to understand these are people that are oppressed. The Palestinians, Israel doesn't have defined borders. I can't stress this enough. They don't define their borders for a reason. They love to oppress the Palestinians. It's the only reason.
When you say they, who are you referring to?
To the Israeli nationalists.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'll grant that.
Yeah, because listen, when they control the West Bank, but they don't want to annex it, they do it for a reason. They do it so that there isn't a majority Palestinian population within Israel. That's why they do it. And if that isn't a state run by some sort of nationalism, that you're the minority. You're the minority. You got to remember, the Israelis are the minority in the land. but they want to hold that minority whilst occupying the entire land.
So
they want to be the minority in power.
So let me actually ask you a question, and this is a question that is tricky, right? So I mean, you understand why Jewish people wanted a state of Israel in the 1940s, yeah?
Win it. Why did I win it? They only accepted the UN resolution plan, and then they created a state. But guess what?
But you understand why they wanted it, right?
Oh, why they wanted it? They wanted it for a safe haven for the Jewish people, a safe haven.
Right.
That's why Herzl wanted
which all things considering, post World War II
it's not a safe haven, by the way. Herzl failed in every regard. New York is safer than Tel Aviv.
Hold on. So, but we can at least understand that in 1945, this was a reasonable thing to want, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
It was reasonable.
So now the question is, that country currently exists. It's at least a Jewish country.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, you can say what you want to.
It has sovereignty. You can say it has sovereignty.
Right, it has sovereignty. Right. So the question
is, sovereignty, but does
what
it have
should they do
borders,
now?
Doesn't have defined borders.
That's not relevant for the conversation.
That's
that we're
not
having.
relevant. I mean, are you American?
Not for the question that I'm asking you.
Okay, what's the question?
I'm American. The question is, what should they do now?
What should Israel
Because
do?
a one-state solution will take away that option that these Jews wanted in the first place.
Yeah,
unless there's some sort of confederation.
The option didn't work in the first place, but the only option I see the Israelis having is the two-state. That's literally the only option they have. And they don't want that option. Israelis do not want a two-state, especially their government. Their government definitely doesn't want it. Netanyahu, I just told you earlier, he goes to the UN General Assembly. He goes to the UN General Assembly with a map showing Gaza as part of Israel. You don't even have an Israeli civilian in Gaza. How can it be part of your territory?
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't know what. Look, Bibi Netanyahu is like a maniac. He's like what would happen to Trump if he had like 10 more IQ points.
Yeah, so this is my point completely, man. The status quo right now is that the entire land is occupied by Israel, and there's no place for a two-state unless you do you want to put all the Palestinians in Gaza and give them Gaza as a state? Like we can ethnically cleanse them from the West Bank.
Arguably, I've heard it talked about that really there should be a three-state solution where you have Gaza, you have the West Bank, and then you have Israel.
The West Bank and then Israel and then Gaza?
Yeah.
Arguably. So who does the West Bank go to? Because there's 700,000 settlers in the West Bank. There's 700,000 settlers.
Get rid of them. Do the same thing that Israel did to the settlers in Gaza. Israel forcibly evicted the people who were the Israelis who were living in Gaza.
Right. But it was very difficult for them. But you know when Israel evicted,
I don't care.
Yeah, okay, but when Israel evicted those 30,000 from Gaza, what did they do with them? They moved them into settlements in the West Bank. They went from being settlers from one place to settling in another place. But
is that actually something that can be that can be like substantiated that it was the same people?
It was definitely.
Because I'd love to hear about this, but it just seems like that's a claim.
You can look it up.
All right, what can I look up to find this?
I don't know what the exact Gaza withdrawal. I think it's like Gaza withdrawal. But I can tell you definitely that they took the settlers from Gaza and they put them in the West Bank. And they did this strategically, by the way, because they valued the land in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria, more than Gaza. Because Gaza wasn't the ancestral homeland of the ancient Israelites. But Judea and Samaria was. That's why they did that. But yeah, like, another point is that there's too many settlers right now, man. There's too many settlers in the West Bank. So for
you mean too many for any sort of eviction to happen?
We can't evict them, bro. They are armed. They are armed now.
If the Israeli government came and said get out, I don't think that you think that they're going to shoot you think that they're going to fight back against the Israeli government?
I think they will. Yeah. Why is civil war like a surprise to you? Civil wars happen in Israel all the time. Civil unrest happens. Look up the Lod massacre, the Lod riots.
Yeah, no. I would just be very surprised because the people who are, settlers tend to be very nationalist. And I feel like nationalists don't really like to fight back against the government.
Nationalists will fight anyone that tries to remove them. Look, who are the Israeli settlers in the West Bank? The majority of them are religious nationalists. You understand? And when you take them away
looking
from
at demographic data, because this is an interesting thing to think about.
Demographic of where? The West Bank?
Of the Israeli settlers in the West Bank, yeah.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot, man. And this another fun fact. The Hebron is a specific case of Israeli settlers. There are around 350,000 Palestinians in Hebron, and in the center of H2 in Hebron, there's 500 to 1,000 settlers that live.
Yeah, so what do you suggest is done? Because we both agree that the settlements are illegal. What do you do about it?
Yeah, I don't think we can remove the settlers.
So then what do you do about it?
Even though I'm pro-Palestinian, I'm talking about a one state. It has to be a one state, a Palestinian state. Or otherwise, it's a two state where the West Bank gets turned into a Palestinian state and the settlers have a Palestinian ID card, which I don't know how well that would work out. There'll be civil unrest, civil war, all type of weird shit, basically. So I think the best thing
because there will never be a one Palestinian state. That'll never happen. Israel has nukes, and because Israel would use nukes before that happened.
Israel can't use nukes on the Palestinians. That's the only people they can't use it against.
My point is that if the Israeli government is under threat of being dissolved, it will never happen.
No.
Right?
It can happen. It really can. I'm not like
How?
Exaggerating or anything, but if you look at Israel's population, their demographics are already too late for Israel to pull back on it. When Israel's annexing territory, like they're annexing East Jerusalem and the Golan Heights and giving everyone residency and citizenship, they're giving their enemy, their nationalistic enemy, their ID. They're giving them.
So, I mean, Jews make up 73% of the population in Israel.
Yeah. And
so, like,
Arabs make
really...
up 20%. Arabs make up 20%.
Yeah, I know. So, like, to say that it's too late, I don't know. That's a pretty big gap.
How many?
Close.
Well, first of all, it depends if Israel wants to annex the West Bank. Then the demographics are really going to change. But, like, my family's from East Jerusalem, and I went to East Jerusalem, and I lived with my family. They have freedom of movement. They're entitled to a lot of things. And guess what? They hate Israel more than anyone. And they have Israeli citizenship. They have residency, sorry.
Yeah, sure. I mean, sure.
You know, they're Israeli residents. You understand? Yeah. Civil unrest and civil war is a real thing. When the Gaza invasion happened, the Al-Aqsa floods happened. What was Israel's first response? Is that what we're calling
it now?
That's what they called it. So I'm just using the correct
I hadn't heard that term yet, but
that's their legitimate terminology.
Sure. No, I believe you.
Yeah. So the first response Israel had wasn't on Hamas. They didn't respond against Hamas. Actually, they had a late response to Hamas. It took over 2 hours for the IDF to enter the settlements. But who did they have the first response on? Netanyahu ordered the police to go and arrest pro-Palestinians in Jaffa and in Lod and all these areas because he was afraid of civil war. And you can look this up. Netanyahu was quoted in 2021 saying he fears for civil war in Israel. And the mayor of Lod,
maybe as
Jewish,
he should.
Yeah, that's why it's such a big threat. And that's why since 2021 till 2023, Israel wasn't the one to initiate a war, because they really do fear civil war. And the Lod riots that happened in 2021, they were devastating for Israel. You're talking about 10 synagogues that were burnt, 600 homes looted. 400 Jewish families were basically, they left Lod after the riots happened. There was people beaten. There was 3 people killed. You can look this up, by the way. It's called the Lod riots of 2021, May 2021. It's a real thing.
No, I
so when Arab
Israelis,
so when Arab Israelis are posing a threat to the state of Israel, this is a big thing because Israel cannot cannot collectively, it cannot like impose the same punishments or collective measures that they impose on the West Bank on those people. They can't do it. Because how do you differentiate between Israeli Arabs, which Israeli Arab is a pro-Palestinian and which one is a Israeli nationalist? How do you differentiate between the two?
So,
in the West Bank, it's very easy.
I guess I don't know where you're going with this. Like, yes, there are a lot of Israeli Arabs who don't like Israel.
Yeah, and how do you think?
But where do we go with this? Where do we go?
My point is,
that's a fact, but it's not.
What's Israel's action against these to prevent them from committing attacks within Israel, within the 48?
My hope, my idealism would say stop having a far right nationalist government, and be less shitty.
But then the security,
so that people don't want to do that.
Yeah, but when the government is too left, there's more attacks. When the government is far right, there's too many attacks. So you got to see this. Either way that Israel goes, if they go left and they take out some settlers, they lower the security of Israel.
Does that make sense to you, that there would be more attacks when Israel is starting to act better?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Why does that make sense?
Because it's a colonial project that occupies Palestinian land. So it doesn't matter if they go left or they go right, the Palestinians are still going to be outraged and occupied. You understand? As long as the nationalistic...
So why would there be more attacks, though, if they go left?
Because the security drops.
Okay,
the right wing has heightened security. The right wing are the ones that impose this blockade on Gaza and the occupation, the brutal occupation of the West Bank. But the left wing, what does the left want to do? They want to take out the settlers. They want to take out the checkpoints. Is that not lowering Israel's security when they do that?
I mean, maybe. But so then what do you suggest Israel do then?
Well,
What are they supposed to do?
Israel, I'm telling you, Israel's a colonial project that they have to, if they want to survive, right? The minority can never survive in power. I just need to say that the minority cannot survive in power. So they have to either absorb the Palestinians and hope for a democratic state with all the citizens and hope to stay in power.
Do you think that would happen?
Well, that's, if you want to be ethically and morally correct, that's what should happen. You understand? Do I think Israel's taking that path right now? No, I don't. This is a very extreme government that you have in Israel right now.
Well, so let's just play that game, because this is a tricky game, right? Let's play that game. Let's say that we snap our fingers. All of the Palestinians are absorbed into Israel, right?
Okay.
The entire West Bank, all of the Gaza Strip, fine. Yeah. Now you have what, probably 60, maybe 60-40 Palestinian, Jewish Israeli, something like that.
And with right of return, it will be so much worse.
Right. Okay. So what do you think happens to the Jews that live there?
I think, look, if it's going to be a democratic state and there's going to be some Israeli nationals in the government and Palestinian nationals in the government, I don't think it's going to work out. And they're not going to agree to the laws of the land, and they're not going to have a constitution that aligns, like views on a constitution that aligns. And there's going to be civil unrest and civil war. The only solution is they got to have one nationalistic movement that they both follow. I don't know if it's Palestine or Israel, or you want to meet and find something in between, or want to call it the Canaan, and they go back to the Canaanites, or everyone like determines themselves individually. They're not looked at as a collective. So everyone just describes it.
So I guess what I'm getting at is undercurrent with the current polarization, both Israeli nationalists and Palestinian nationalists are very, very extreme right now, especially.
Yep, I agree.
If that were to happen, I don't think that there would be any Jews left in Israel 5 years later.
No, I don't. Look, if the two nationalities still overlapped each other, then I'm not going to say that there's going to be no Jews. It all depends on the demographics and who controls what. But look, if the Palestinians, in the end of the day, it's a state of Palestine, they don't have any problem. Of course, there might be some discrimination against Jews for a couple of years because of what's happened to the Palestinians. You know, that's just how it is. Zionists have discriminated against the Palestinians. They've endured them. Palestinians have endured occupation and all the suffering. So, and the majority behind that were Jewish people. So that's unfortunately, like, they're gonna look towards the Jewish people as their problem, even though it's not right to do so. It's definitely wrong. But that's just what's going to happen. And if Palestine were to be free in the future, there's obviously going to be some discrimination. Look, there's discrimination against Israeli Arabs now, and they're integrated into Israeli society. It's something that's very normal. There's still...
I agree. My point is, I think that with the current polarization, I think it would be more than discrimination.
I don't know. If you dismantle the groups, like the militias, which is going to be very hard, by the way, I think you can get away with...
That's a different story. That's a different story.
Yeah, if you get rid of the militias and you stop oppressing the people, because when you look at who really commits the attacks, that the majority of attacks that come from the West Bank are not really militia. They're not from militias. They're actually from individuals.
Yeah. Those are usually just protesters who throw rocks and then get shot.
Protesters, people that have been like affected directly by the occupation. Maybe their mother or sister was shot, or their dad.
Yeah, no. That I entirely understand. It seems like Hamas is far more extreme than the leadership in the West Bank.
Yeah, they have a bit more power in terms of military than the West Bank. I went to the West Bank, and their military over there, the PA's military, looks like a pop-up shop. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's true.
They have this huge castle in Jericho. I don't even know if you want to call it a castle, but it's like some PA military base. And I went over there, and I was like surprised. Like, what has this ever been used for? What has this ever been used for? When has the PA ever attacked Israel? In fact, the PA is doing the opposite right now. They're aiding Israel. They're cooperating with Israel.
Shouldn't we want these states cooperating with each other?
Yeah, but you got to understand why they're cooperating. They're not cooperating for the real reason of peace and all this stuff. The PA is very corrupt, and they cooperate for money, basically. That's all it is. The PA is cooperating with Israel and helping and getting in the good books of Israel, and they actually saved 2 or 3 Israelis. They accidentally entered Jenin, and they would have most likely been, had bad things happen to them. The PA went in and saved these Israelis, and they took them back to an Israeli checkpoint. And you can look this up.
And so look, that's the kind of thing that we should hope happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, but the intention matters as to why they're doing it. Did they do it because they love Israelis? Or did they do it because they want a paycheck they want Israel to release some of the tax dollars, because Israel's been holding the tax dollars that go straight to the PA.
So my position is generally like I generally don't care about intentions. I just care about whether the actions are good or not. When I see cooperation, I'm like, cooperation, for whatever reason, cooperation means more trust. And that just seems like that's a good thing. And I wish that kind of thing could happen in Gaza.
Yeah,
I don't care if it's just buying cooperation. Here's money. Please cooperate with. I don't care as long as there's.
It's not. It doesn't last for long, though. It does not last for long.
Well, but it builds trust. That's the point.
Look at now. So the PA went from saving 2 Jewish lives to now they haven't condemned Hamas. The PA. Why hasn't the PA condemned Hamas? They're happy to they're happy to cooperate with Israel for a bit of tax dollars, but they don't want to condemn Hamas that committed an atrocity against Israel, their partners. Israel's supposed to be the, and this is the same thing.
Right.
This is the same thing, by the way. This is the hypocrisy of the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Jordan, all these countries. The United Arab Emirates, they have peace treaty. They have a peace treaty with Israel. All these countries, Egypt has peace treaty with Israel. Egypt didn't allow the United States troops. I don't know if this is true, but I just got this information recently. Egypt's not allowing the United States troops to attack Hamas from Egypt. I don't know if this is true, but this is what I heard recently. And not only that, they haven't condemned Hamas. No one's condemned Hamas. In fact, even Saudi that was having negotiations. Saudi was having negotiations for a peace treaty with Israel. Saudi Arabia just came out and they said, we're sorry we even brought up the peace agreements. We're going to throw it all in the bin. And now, like,
I thought that they said that they wanted the thing to de-escalate.
No, they threw away the peace.
I thought I read something earlier this morning.
They threw it away completely. They don't want normalization with Israel anymore. They do not want it. Yeah. I think, look,
sorry,
whatever you want to say that Hamas, this was a bad move by Hamas and all this and all that. Hamas did this in a time where it was needed for their people. Like, if this wouldn't have happened...
Do you think it's going to make it better?
Is it? If you talk about casualty-wise and is there going to be a lot of suffering? There is going to be a lot of suffering. But when you look at like the Palestinian movement or the Palestinian nationalistic cause as a whole, it benefits them. But look, if this didn't happen,
I don't. Well, I guess.
I mean, look at all the media coverage they're getting. Look at all the media coverage.
Yeah, like at least in the West, the media is like shitting on Hamas.
Shitting on Hamas. Go look at the streets. I'm in Australia right now.
So Austria cut off aid to Hamas. Like they were going to send them 20 million euros. Now they're not getting 20 million euros.
What does that matter? Israel blockaded anyway. Israel's blockading.
Well, no. This was like aid that Gaza was getting regularly from Austria.
Gaza wouldn't get it. Gaza would not get it.
Not anymore. You're right.
Not anymore, exactly. So it doesn't really matter who's cutting with. The fact of the matter is, Hamas and Gaza are getting. They're getting allies now that they didn't have in the past, and they're only getting these allies.
I don't think that that's true. I think that okay, so at least
you don't
in the
think
US,
China and Russia are allied more with?
Oh yeah,
Gaza
sure, maybe.
Hamas?
But they've always they've always been fairly against U.S. interests, and because U.S. has interests in Israel, they've generally been anti-U.S. Enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But they haven't really, in the past, they haven't really taken as much action, or like they haven't, in wording, they haven't really affirmed their support for Palestine. But like when China was asked to condemn Israel, they didn't condemn Israel. They just said, we reaffirm actions for a two-state solution, and we hope everything can end peacefully. That's what they said. If you're having trouble condemning a terrorist group, internationally recognized terrorist group, that's what Hamas is. If you're having trouble condemning them, then you've definitely picked a side in what's going on.
I don't know. No, I think that like they're just trying to not pick a side. That's the point.
I don't know about that. I don't know. Look, I think really there's going to be some sort of contribution very soon between Gaza or the Palestinian Authority with Russia and China. It only makes sense. It only makes sense.
You think that they're going to contribute to that? That would be real bad. There's proxies all over the world. Proxy wars are not a new thing. You understand? And no,
it's real,
I know, but it would be really, really bad.
Yeah, you can say it's bad. Obviously it's going to be bad. War in general is bad, you understand? But, like, what are we fighting for? What are the people fighting for? You understand? And when it turns into a greater conflict, you really go back to questioning who was at fault, and that's what we failed to do.
I'm just not convinced that fucking however many Palestinians are going to die as a result of this will be for the greater good.
I actually don't think a lot of Palestinians will
Well,
die.
I hope you're right.
I don't think so.
I hope you're right.
I don't think so. Even right now, Hamas has threatened Israel. They've threatened it. By the way, Israel's bombing Gaza right now and killing their own people because Hamas has took Israeli captives into Gaza, and Israel bombed Gaza, killing 4 captives. Like, they're killing their own people. Israel is deluded.
Yep.
Right now. And Hamas has told...
Yeah,
Hamas
they're out
has
for blood.
Hamas has made a public threat to Israel. They've said that if you bomb Gaza without alerting us, basically, ahead of time, we're going to start execute... For every, for every bomb dropped, he said, that they're going to kill a captive and record it, like, publicly. That's what they've said. You can look this up. It's a fact. Abu something.
And so we'll see what happens. But to think that you don't think a whole lot of Palestinians are going to die as a result of this, I hope you're right. I also think that's hilariously naive.
I definitely think so, because let me tell you, how much is a lot to you? How much is a lot to you? Because in 2021, 3,000 died, or somewhere around there.
Yeah. Thousands,
right?
More than that.
Right now, we're not near the 3,000. There's a lot of
we're only 2 days in.
Yeah, there's a lot of Palestinians displaced. Don't get me wrong, you understand? But you gotta go back to how much does Israel love getting back its prisoners, like the people that have been taken as prisoners of war. How much do they really want to bring back their prisoners?
A really good question. Israel has a history of spending a lot to try to get prisoners back. So it's a good it's a good question.
They've done a lot of prisoner swaps in the past. I'm saying 1,000 prisoners.
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah, 1,000.
1,000 to 1.
Which by the way is like, I don't know. What do you make of that?
Which is kind of crazy, man. It's kind of crazy. Like,
yeah, what do you make of that?
I think that's disrespecting the Palestinians a bit, man. If you're thinking 1,000 equates to 1 Palestinian,
but that wait a minute. I think it's do you think it was Israel that said, like, yeah, here, take 1,000 for our one guy, or do you think that the Palestinian group demanded that many?
It's a negotiation. It always comes down to, like, Egypt always negotiates these deals. So I think, like, they kind of pressure Israel into doing it. But, like, in the end of the day, the fact that Israel falls into doing that is just crazy to me. You're giving Hamas 1,000 terrorists for 1 soldier. It's just, it sounds like something out of a video game, honestly.
I mean,
it doesn't even sound like real life.
Yeah, so it just seems like it's I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like, it seems it's you're right. It sounds like it's out of a video game.
So do you think?
Which is why Israel I'm skeptical. Go ahead.
This is why I don't think Israel is, like, bombing Gaza. Look, Israel bombed Gaza.
Did you already say that they already did?
No, I meant to say bombing Gaza indiscriminately, like, just going full on Gaza, right? Like, when you look at when they first bombed, didn't they first bomb a tower? They made, like, 16,000 people.
Are you talking about Gaza Tower?
Yeah, Gaza Tower. They bombed the tower, and then they waited for a bit before the next bomb.
Yeah, they're the knocker. They're the, what are they called? It's the knock first strategy, or whatever they call it.
Hold on, Mahmoud, stop talking. You're a child.
Don't read the comments. Don't read the comments. They're just going to be mean to you. Okay. Although some of them like you quite a lot, so kudos for that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm calling
Roof knockers, Hamas. That's what they're called. Sorry.
No, that you're good, man. I look at things from, like, an international perspective, so I don't have that much bias because I am Palestinian. So I try not to have that much bias when I talk about stuff. That's the only reason why I'm calling Hamas a terrorist group. You understand? Because internationally they recognize a terrorist group. You understand? I don't think it's beneficial for me to sit up here talking to 1,200 people with a biased view. I don't think that's beneficial. The beneficial view is to look at it from an international perspective. Because in this conflict, the international perspective is actually right. The international perspective is that settlements are wrong. There's an occupation of the West Bank. The Golan Heights isn't recognized as Israeli territory. East Jerusalem isn't recognized as Israeli territory. These are the international perspectives of what's going on. So, and I think that's right. So if I'm gonna use the UN or the international community to hold Israel accountable, I have to take the international community when they call Hamas terrorists. I have to take
right,
that,
which means that you also have to be okay with condemning them. Like, I don't think you can have it both ways.
I can condemn their actions, definitely I can condemn their actions.
Okay.
But to say that Hamas is just blatantly, they're not serving the Palestinian people, like they're not doing it for no reason. I'm not here to say that they're not doing it for no reason. They're doing it for a reason. And like you said before, don't be surprised that this happened. We're not surprised that this happened, but it is wrong for it to happen. It's wrong for it to happen, but we're not surprised it happened because these are people that are suffering. That's all I'm trying to put out.
Honestly, I actually don't know if we disagree all that much. If we disagree all that much. I mean, I guess perhaps we disagree on what should happen as far as whether it should be a one or a two-state solution. But I think that's the eternal problem, right? It's not really influenced by what's happening now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard for us to disagree because I think that you look at it like from a very international perspective, and I do the same. You understand? And that's why it's very hard for us to disagree because the international community stance is very clear, and they do have a set standard when it comes to Israel and Palestine. They have the set standard of the status quo that, hey, the West Bank is occupied. You understand? Gaza is under a blockade, it's under siege. There's been UN resolutions against Israel. They've been vetoed by America. The West kind of leans towards Israel.
Sort of, depending on which part of the West you're in, I suppose.
It depends, yeah, it depends. I'm in Australia right now. Our current government, we reversed the decision to make Jerusalem the capital of Israel. So even in the West,
that was a weird thing that Trump did. Like, what did he think was going to happen there?
Trump did that because he loves Netanyahu, basically. He loves Netanyahu.
Which is another reason why everybody should recognize that Netanyahu's like a maniac.
Yeah. Trump has a weird relationship with Netanyahu. He loves him.
Yeah, they're the same person. Netanyahu's just smarter.
I agree. No, they're definitely some funny guys. You should watch some of the interviews they've had with each other on YouTube. I think there's a video if you want to look it up. Trump's like to Netanyahu, I wish you can hold up on the settlements a bit, and Netanyahu was like, sure, like he just said sure, and then Trump was like, oh, that doesn't sound really optimistic, but okay. And that was just hilarious. It just goes to show you that, Netanyahu and Trump knows exactly who Netanyahu is as a person, but he still tries to create policies that favor Netanyahu's interests. It's crazy.
I mean, yeah, because they have aligned interests. I don't know. Or they have aligned ideologies anyway.
Yeah, I don't really understand what Trump's ideologies are, but the guy's kind of everywhere. But
his ideology is whatever will give him power, and that happens to be an ultra-nationalist one in the U.S.
I agree with that completely. Look at what Trump's doing right now. He's just saying that, hey, Biden's gonna start World War III. This would have never happened if I was in power. That's what the guy's saying. He just cares about getting back in power.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, I think,
that's an election I can influence, so I'm gonna vote against him for whatever that's worth, right?
Definitely, man. But I'm gonna hop off. Yeah, we've been talking for a minute, and I think my phone's gonna die.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, Mahmoud. Have a good one.
No worries. See you.
He was cool. To everybody who's watching, consider subscribing. Consider following if you don't want to. Or if you hate me, you know, you're free to leave, I guess. Or if you're hate watching, that's cool too. If you hate watch, just don't do the hate report thing. Riz, how's it going? I was wondering if you had any thoughts on this.
Oh, I've got major thoughts on it, but first of all, I need to clarify, what does this Hamas simps or cringe mean? I want to make sure I understand what it means.
It means that if you're simping for Hamas, then I cringe because you're giving me secondhand embarrassment.
How do you mean simping for Hamas?
Being like, oh yeah, what Hamas did was cool and based, and they should do it more. Like that's what simping for Hamas means.
Okay, so let me put it this way. I love Palestine. I support the Palestinian people all the way. Yeah.
Cool.
So let me ask you this question. The only sports I really like are UFC and cricket. Right now, I'm supporting Pakistan, hopefully winning the Cricket World Cup. Yeah. And just because they're the people that I love and support, I hope that they win. It doesn't mean that I agree with all their actions. So what I'm saying is, every Muslim in the world supports the actions of what Hamas are doing, which is trying to free the Palestinian people. But in terms of,
that's true.
It is true. Whether they
every
are
Muslim
doing,
in the world supports the actions of Hamas. Come on, no, it's not. That's not true.
No, they do. What it is that
I'm pretty sure I just talked to one that didn't support the actions of Hamas.
Okay, so I'm trying to give you the truth, Blitz. That guy there was fake, saying that international law, the international law, United Nations,
doesn't Hamas only have 53% of the support of Palestinians?
Listen, if you've got a set of people that want to be oppressed, and they think that, oh, we'd rather be oppressed than have wars, then yes, you're going to have division amongst the same people. So I agree that there's people within Palestine who think, oh, rather than us getting attacked by Israel, we'd rather be under occupation and be oppressed by them, having to have our water limited.
I think that just some people are like against like murdering civilians, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
no,
right?
I fully agree. So, as a Muslim, and in the Quran, it's explicitly stated that unaliving children, women, civilians, men, women, or any kind of civilian or religious institution or hospital is not allowed. So what I'm saying is that the media, which is owned by Vanguard and BlackRock, which owns all the main news stations that you're getting your information from.
I don't know about you, but wait, do they own Al Jazeera?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they own all of them.
True. There's no fucking way.
They own all of them. So what I'm saying to you, Blitz, is that...
All right, so Al Jazeera is based in Doha and owned by the Al Jazeera Media Network. It is a state-owned media conglomerate. It's not owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. What?
It is. Okay,
no,
let me ask you a question.
It's owned by Qatar.
Okay, so Blitz, have you seen... There's two media on the mainstream media videos which they've misinterpreted or whatever, but have you seen the Israeli female soldier that they've held captured, but they've given her water and made sure that she's safe?
Sure. Yes.
Have you seen the video of the mother and the children that have been, kidnapped or whatever the term you want to use, but they made sure that her modesty was covered by putting a scarf on her head as she was in the vehicle?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay, well, that's the one where they're claiming that they're mistreating. The only videos I've seen of Hamas is only doing things which are in line with the rules. The only thing that they're saying...
Wait, hold on. You didn't see any of the videos from, like, Saturday when the incursion started?
If you can show me an independent person,
I literally can't because I'll get banned on TikTok for it.
No. What I mean is if you can link me to a video where you've got
go to Al
clear
Jazeera.
evidence.
Like these were posted by Hamas. Official videos posted by Hamas.
Okay, if there's an official video of Hamas showing them hurting civilians, I fully agree that they are a terrorist organization. Yeah, but I'm saying,
just literally Google it.
No. Listen, Blitz, this is what I'm trying to clarify for you. The fact that the mainstream media is owned and they push a narrative.
You can just go to go to Hamas's Twitter account or something, or Telegram account, I guess.
Blitz, do you know what crisis actors are?
Wait. So you think Hamas is publishing this crisis acting content?
No, what I'm saying is the mainstream media is showing you crisis actor content.
Go to Hamas's Telegram channel.
No, because that would make me part of an organization that you claim are terrorists. So therefore, I don't go to that. I go to
okay. So literally, they posted this shit.
No, what I'm saying, I have not seen no evidence of that. What I'm saying is from the mainstream media.
That's because you refuse to find it yourself.
No, but if this doing the things that you're claiming, should it not be on the mainstream media?
You won't believe the mainstream media.
No, the only things
that I've seen telling you to go to their own channels.
Okay, the ones that I've seen on the mainstream media are people that don't look like Hamas to me. They look like crisis actors.
That's why I'm saying don't go to the mainstream media. Just go to Hamas's own posts.
Yeah,
they're posting it because they're proud of it.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Blitz, just with regards to the etiquettes of what's happening here. Do you think it's fair that Israel brings an RPG to a fist fight?
Generally, no. But they're going to anyway.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they did that regardless. Prior to this so-called assault that took place recently, there was no kind of, war going on with the Palestinians. But during Ramadan, Israel overtook Masjid al-Aqsa, and they caused so many problems, they do the regular thing. So
it's bad. I condemn Israel for those actions, or I condemn the state of Israel anyway, not the people.
But what I'm saying to you, Blitz, is I agree 100%. Civilians and like I say, in religious buildings and schools and hospitals should not be harmed in any way, shape, or form. But what I'm saying is, while the international world knows that, according to which I don't like the UN, I don't like anything because I know that they are part of the New World Order, but they have even said that Israel is an illegal occupation. So therefore, why is the international world not doing something to stop this? Why do they just sit back? So you've got to support the people that are actually doing something.
Wait, it's because the UN doesn't have teeth, and because the United States is on the UN Security Council. That's why.
Yeah, they all are. But I just wanted to give you my input because a lot of people will, when they come on TikTok or when they go in real life or when they're in front of people, they'll give you a whitewashed version of what they claim is the truth. I'm giving you the real truth, which is that just like you'd watch a sports match, you want to support your team. But you might not agree with the principles of what these people are doing.
But like, here's the thing. Like, that would be fine if this was sports and nobody was getting hurt, but people are getting hurt. So like, no, you don't fucking do that. Sorry.
No.
I don't, sports is a terrible analogy here.
Okay. If I try to look for a video of Hamas hurting civilians, I will 100% agree with you. But the only thing that I've seen...
Then actually look for them. Just go to Hamas's own Telegram, their Twitter, or wherever it is. You can find it. It's there. They posted it.
But trust me, I look on Twitter daily, I look on Facebook, I look on all the uncensored Rumble, etc., etc. But what I'm saying is the only videos I've seen is Hamas treating civilians correctly, which is...
Okay, then you haven't looked hard enough, because we've all seen these things, right?
Okay, then...
Actually, I'm going to open up a quick poll, just so we can see. I don't want to use smiley faces and frowny faces. Actually, no, I will use smiley faces and frowny faces. All right. Smiley face if you've only seen Hamas do good things. Frowny face if you've seen them do atrocities.
No, atrocities don't apply. Hurting civilians.
Hurting civilians, fine. Frowny face if you've seen videos of Hamas hurting civilians. My point exactly.
Well, yeah, you might win on this occasion. You might win. That's fine. But...
So maybe just go look harder, because we've all seen it.
No, you say you've all seen it, but this is what I'm trying to portray. If the mainstream media showed it, I would agree with you. The fact that they're not showing it shows me that they're using crisis actors to provide a propaganda to sway the bias of what the international world thinks. Remember, there was a stage, Blitz, when 2001 happened, when the word terrorist wasn't used that much until after that event. And then they ascribed it to a whole religious group, regardless of what them people are like, meaning me, Muslims.
Yes. The rednecks in the United States who are like all Muslims are terrorists are batshit crazy and racist.
And
You're
this
not
is
going to
what
get an
I'm.
objection about, but Hamas
Yes.
is.
Yes, but what I'm saying to you, they're
They're also
applying the
like
same.
fascists and like
Yes.
terrible people.
Okay. What I'm saying is they're applying the same media tactics that they did then, now. Remember, even
Just go look at what
Netanyahu's...
Hamas posted themselves. There's they are claiming to have done these things.
Okay. All right. Let's take the point that the other guy brought up earlier, which is that Hamas had threatened Israel, saying that if you don't give us enough warning, blah blah blah, we'll unalive on TV. Or if it's a IDF soldier, that is within the rules of war. If it's a civilian, I will 100%
Hold
agree
on.
with you.
To be clear, executing POWs is still a war crime.
Okay, so giving solitary confinement to civilians by Israel, that's not a war crime?
I mean,
For 12,
so
the guy had 11
generally,
years in solitary confinement.
Generally, that's considered that's considered a humanitarian, or what's it called? It's not a war crime because it's not war, but there's another word for it, and I can't think of it. Like not a crime against humanity. There's a word for it, but I can't think of it. Like that's condemned. Generally, solitary confinement is like regarded as like torture.
Human rights violations.
Human rights violation.
Okay.
Thank you. That's the word.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a human rights violation. It's not a war crime, though.
Okay. But what I'm saying is, if Hamas were to do something live with an IDF soldier, that is within war rules. And yes, it would be a war crime according to international law. But what I'm saying is, if they did it to a civilian, then that would be quite clearly something which would put Hamas as a terrorist organization. But I have never seen that on the mainstream media.
Do you think that they have any civilians hostages?
They have loads of civilian hostages right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is taking hostages something? Is taking civilian hostages something that normal militaries do?
Well, what they're trying to do is exchange them, while providing. Obviously, there's terror involved, meaning to the civilians who get kidnapped or taken, but they are treated good from what I've seen. But obviously, you can't say it's good in terms of taking someone from their native area. But then again, these people are not native to that area. They have taken over other people's land in the first place.
Who?
The Israelis.
All of them?
Well, if you look at the 1947-48 pre-Israeli map, you see that the majority of Israel is Palestinian land. And so therefore...
Well,
now
the majority... Hold on, I just had this argument with somebody. No, it was owned by Britain. It was British. It was British ownership.
The Balfour Agreement by the liars. This was all done. The British never owned it. The British assigned it to them.
The British owned it from 1919.
The British never owned it.
They took it from the Ottomans, right?
They did what they do best, which is to colonize and then to do what they do. And what they did under the Balfour Agreement.
To be fair, the Ottomans colonized it before that, right? And before that, it was the Byzantines, before that, it was the Crusaders, and before that, it was the Byzantines, and before that, it was the Romans, before that, it was it was the Romans, and then, before that, it was the Persians, then the Romans, then the Greeks, then the Babylonian, we can just keep going back.
I fully agree. I fully agree with that. But during all that period, and you've got to agree on this point or disagree with me on this point, Blitz. During the Crusaders, during the Babylonians, during the Romans, during the Ottomans, whichever empire, that land was always called Palestine. Yeah. It never once was called Israel.
I mean, so prior to the. it was called Judea for a very long time. There was Judea, and it starts with an S, and I can't think of it. Samaria.
Blitz. I've got it all the way from the 1400s. Yeah.
So the name Palestine is a Roman name. If you just want to change the name, that's fine, I guess. I don't.
I'm not attached to the name. The name defines who it belongs to.
So then the Jews living there were Palestinians?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Remember, prior to the Balfour Agreement, prior to all of that stuff, we lived in peace and harmony. Remember, the New World Order had a plan.
That's not true. There were pogroms and there were massacres on both sides. It's just not true that there was peace and harmony prior to 1948.
Overall, there was peace and harmony, just like
No, there wasn't. There was conflict, just like because you had two opposing groups who just wanted to be there.
So one of the groups invited them to provide a refuge area for them. Yeah. So how is that providing?
Which group invited the other group?
Okay, so when the Jews were displaced, the Palestinians provided them an area of refuge. Yeah. Yes or no?
Wait, no.
No. All right. So what happened?
In what
then?
sense? So what you think that it was just like, hey, come, like no, you had a bunch of Jews who bought stuff, and then a bunch of Jews just went there and just showed up.
Yes, because it was a open and accepting country. It wasn't one which rejected them, if you see what I mean. So many other countries refused them.
They didn't have a choice because it was controlled by Britain.
We'll go around in circles on this one, but I just wanted to come up and give you my piece. I agree that if you've got evidence showing, mistreatment of civilians or unaliving of civilians, then I agree that you shouldn't.
It's all over everywhere.
Yeah, I agree that civilians should never be harmed, and regardless of what the cause is, civilians should always be looked after. And if you've got evidence of that, which is independent and not the mainstream media using crisis actors,
just go to
I fully agree with
own
you.
channels.
Yeah. Okay, I will look. But like I say, all I've seen on the mainstream media is 100% crisis actors. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not telling you to look on the media.
Yeah. Okay, all right, no worries. Thank you for having me on. Take care now. Bye.
All right, do I have to bring on Nils? Nils, do you actually want to come on?